Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Russ Riesinger. A strong warning tonight that failure to follow the governor's stay-at-home order could be catastrophic to our community and state, and also punishable if you don't voluntarily comply. Now, this as the numbers and deaths from COVID-19 continue to grow. In a grim new milestone, the number of confirmed U.S. coronavirus cases have doubled in just 5 days. We're well over 200,000 now. The federal stockpile of protective gear for healthcare workers, gowns, masks, and gloves is also nearly depleted. People in all but 12 states are being ordered to stay home. Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota among the states that have not issued stay-at-home orders yet. Well, the number of cases in Montana is also growing more by the day. We're now more than 200. There are now 217 confirmed cases in the state. Total deaths remain at 5 tonight. Well, Governor Bullock issued that stay-at-home order last week. Most Montanans have been doing their best to follow it, but not everyone, and a lot of people still have questions about it. Today, a news conference at Riverstone Health answered some of those questions and also made it very clear that that order will be enforced.
The governor's order requires that gatherings be both essential and limited in size. The governor's order is not an either or, it's a both and. And I think that's been some confusion. So we've had some folks say, you know, it's a small group, isn't okay? It's got to be essential and it's got to be limited in size.
Our preferences is for voluntary compliance, education if you have contact with law enforcement, and then after repeated or very egregious or blatant violations, then we will work closely with the county attorney's office and the public health department to issue citations and or arrest at their directive.
This disease is now killing our Montanans. It's wrecking our economy. It's damaging this town that I grew up in, the state that I love.
Twito said people can be fined for every day that they're in violation of the order and could even face jail time. Something else that came out of that news conference, health officials say we aren't even expected to reach our peak of this outbreak here in Montana until the end of this month.
The cost of failure to follow these guidelines is catastrophic. This isn't just a, oops, we didn't do it. This is catastrophic. It's the cost of failure is almost unimaginable.
Felton adding that nobody wants to see people get arrested, but he says it is essential that people take this order seriously and follow it. If you have questions about the order after reviewing it online, you can call the county attorney's office. Violations can be reported to the public health office. That number is 651-6415. Well, a model being used by the Trump administration shows that we could be dealing with the implications of the coronavirus for months to come. According to that model, we will see our peak on April 25th with approximately 9 deaths a day here in Montana. By June, death totals in the state are expected to reach 270 before leveling out. Now, these projections come from the Institute for Health and Metrics and Evaluation at the University of Washington. This model assumes that strong social distancing measures remain in place to protect against the spread of the disease. And at this time, Montana will have enough hospital beds, but could be short of ICU beds. It also expects 100 ventilators will be needed statewide. Nationally, the model shows that up to 240,000 Americans could die from COVID-19. Again, these are projections that are used by the White House Coronavirus Task Force. Well, 73 Montana Army and Air National Guard men and women have been activated for state active duty because of the coronavirus crisis. Those soldiers and airmen will be used in 11 cities and 17 locations across Montana to screen people who are arriving from other states and countries. And they'll be placed at airports and train stations. That begins on Friday. Today, Governor Bullock issued another directive to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in state correctional facilities. This directive suspends new transfers into the Department of Corrections custody, except when authorized by the director. If transfers are authorized, those new inmates will need to be quarantined for 14 days. The directive also includes several measures to be implemented by the Department of Corrections, including screening anyone who arrives at the facility and restricting all in-person visitation. The Board of Pardons and Paroles will also consider early release for some nonviolent criminals. Well, with the rent due today for thousands of Montanans, there are still questions surrounding Governor Bullock's directive allowing payments to be late. That order came down yesterday, instructing landlords to give renters extra time as the coronavirus impacts the economy and people are out of work. But it doesn't mean that renters won't eventually have to pay their April rent. Those with the Department of Commerce say it instead allows time to figure out the next step.
To basically, relieve some of the pressure off of folks to know that right in the middle of this emergency, they're not going to be displaced from their homes. It does not forgive their rent or their mortgage or any of their payments. It really just gives them a little bit of breathing room to figure out what they can and what they need to do.
And while renters have time to figure out those details, landlords and property owners are also getting some extra time. Those with Montana Housing encourage buyers to talk with their lenders. Hotels are an essential service under the governor's directive, but have been impacted because of the stay-at-home directive. The Northern Hotel in downtown Billings has seen a decrease that started with the cancellation of state basketball tournaments. Q2's David J. talked with a couple hotel owners.
It's been a lot quieter in downtown Billings.
I would classify it as a Sunday night. This is like this day in, day out, morning, noon, and night. It's eerie.
It's a great place if you want to take a walk and have some time to be alone with your thoughts. Okay, I may be exaggerating a little bit, but the crowds have thinned quite a bit downtown.
The lack of activity in downtown Billings has also had an effect on the hotels, both here at the Clock Tower and down the street at the Northern. And both hotels have restaurants, and those have also had a decrease in customers.
Just doing to-go and with cinnamon rolls and some of the bakery goods, we basically have 2 people on a day for about 4 or 5 hours. We're not going in the hole. We're basically paying for our product costs and we're paying for labor, and we make a couple dollars to apply to another bill.
Bernie's is open in the morning, 10 is open in the evenings, primarily for room service for our hotel guests, but we also have carry-out. As far as being a hotel, it's become a very lonely life.
Our budget for the month of April is 10%, basically renting 12 rooms a night out of 125 rooms.
And they say the decrease is seen throughout the hotel industry, whether it's downtown, at the West End, or around the country.
1 in 25 jobs in the U.S. economy is attached somehow to a hotel. That's 4% of the employment in America.
There is optimism. We believe great things.
We're going to come out of this stronger than when we went in. And I'm not just talking about the hotel, the Northern, or our restaurants. I'm talking about Billings. There's a lot of resolve in this town, and we are going to be strong and more successful when we come out of this. And I think it's going to be a lot sooner than everybody believes.
In Billings, David J., MTN News.
All right, thank you, David. Both talked about the impact on employees, with one of those hotels having about 80% of its workers on furlough right now. One man is in the hospital tonight after a stabbing at a West End motel late this afternoon. Happened around 4:30 at the Motel 6 at 5400 Midland Road. An employee called 911 for the victim, who was in the lobby of the motel. Lieutenant Brian Krivitz says a 23-year-old man had multiple stabs wounds to his upper torso. The suspect fled before officers arrived, and no arrests have been made yet. That stabbing still under investigation. One of the top producers in the world of Bakken oil filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection today. Whiting Petroleum, based in Denver, has been a major player on the Montana oil scene for more than 30 years. Its sudden demise, perhaps a hint of things to come for the beleaguered shale oil industry. Ellen Olson with the Montana Petroleum Association told MTN News today that small oil and gas producers all across the state are shutting in their wells, meaning the pumps have been turned off. Olson estimated that more than 1,000 Montana wells have been shut in across Rosebud, Toole, Glacier, and Musselshell counties. Olson described Whiting Petroleum as a good company, a good corporate neighbor who will be missed. And an update now on the Keystone pipeline story we brought you last night. TC Energy tells MTN News that construction on the pipeline crossing between the U.S. and Canada did not get underway this morning, but it will soon. Spokeswoman Sarah Rayburn describes the situation as fluid. While she could not give an exact date on when that work will begin, she confirms it will happen this month. Rayburn says the planned activity will focus on the 1.4-mile stretch of BLM land that the border crosses. She couldn't say how many workers might be involved or for how long. Just yesterday, TC Energy announced the Keystone Pipeline project has new life thanks to a $1 billion investment from the government of Alberta that will fund that project for the next year. All right, turning to weather. First day of April starts out with a little bit of snow on the ground. Meteorologist Ed McIntosh joining us. Take a look at some of the totals, Ed.
That's right, at least for the mountain foothills, because we have other areas that are going to continue to watch more snow tonight. As we look anywhere around Absaroka, Nye, Livingston, Wilsow, we're looking at 6 to almost a foot of new snow. Cook City, 20 inches reported, and a foot of new snow right around Red Lodge, and a good amount of snow into the Red Lodge foothills as well. Around the region, we saw varying amounts of snow. Now, Sheridan County, Wyoming at 6 inches. That's just this evening as the weather system starting to move through Wyoming. You can see lighter amounts in through much of the eastern plains, but those could pick up tonight. We'll show you the path of that weather system in a couple of minutes.
All right, thank you, Ed. Restaurants in Billings are teaming up to make sure that people in need, kids and senior citizens, are staying fed during the COVID-19 pandemic. We checked in with one of those restaurants and the person that helped start the Yellowstone County Restaurant Coalition.
Well, we had contact with, actually, Matthew contacted us and asked if we would help, setting something up. And it was all through Facebook, and we jumped on right away. Of course, we want to support our community as much as we can, even though, it's a little tough for us as well. But there's other people who are even worse off than we are.
We're always willing to help the community. Like Birgit was saying, we know there's families out there that need food, and so we're always willing to help out with the community with Adult Resource Alliance and Family Services, or a few that we've helped in the past, Tumbleweed doing fundraisers, so this is a way that we can give back to them as well.
If you want to get those vouchers, you can go through the Adult Resource Alliance, Family Promise, Family Services. Tumbleweed has vouchers as well. We did distribute some to the school district, but the school district was distributing those to the families in need, so I wouldn't go through the school district to get those. So right now it's Adult Resource Alliance, Family Promise, Family Services, Tumbleweed. Those are the main ones you want to get out to and go to if you need to get any assistance.
Well, in response to people who say they're being denied coronavirus testing, a computer programmer and former member of the Montana legislature created a website where they can share their stories. Untestedmontana.com was launched Friday and untestedwyoming.com was launched yesterday. Both websites were created as a place where residents of both states can share information on their symptoms after being turned away from testing. Once collected, that information will be given to the governor's offices and state COVID-19 task forces to use however they see fit.
We can make sure folks' stories are heard. I'm sure many are seeing on Facebook right now from friends and family who cannot get tested. And we're just trying to give those folks agency and make sure the government and the authorities have that data.
He also mentioned all fields on that website are voluntary, and as soon as that information is handed over to the state, it will be completely wiped from his database. Again, those websites are untestedmontana.com and untestedwyoming.com. Still to come on tonight's 10 o'clock news, a look at the U.S. agricultural trade market with key Asian markets and how it's been impacted by COVID-19. Plus, Water Woes, a local water district dealing with calls about the safety of their drinking water. And in sports, the Montana Grizzlies part ways with head coach and former Billings Central star Shannon Schwein. Scott has the details coming up.
You're watching MTN News with Janelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Breen. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.